you're not just one thing. So you're not just your company, you're not just your job. You're this multidimensional human being. And that's where harmony comes from, really realizing that and giving yourself permission to exercise all of those different parts of yourself at different times.
Microphone check, 1, 2, what is this?
You're now listening to a brand new episode of the Play Big Faster podcast.
Look what you done started. Let's go.
Welcome to another episode of the Play Big Faster podcast. We are joined in this episode by Victoria Mensch. Victoria helps entrepreneurs with work-life balance and harmony. And so she has agreed to come and talk to us in this episode about just the best ways not to get burnout and to live a life of peace and harmony, and how you do that in a way that will make your entrepreneurial journey more successful and fulfilling. Victoria, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much, Sherry. I'm so happy to be here.
So how did you start doing this work? Because it is such important work, and sometimes you don't even know that you need help avoiding burnout until you've actually arrived at that destination.
Yeah, so I know my story really is a personal story. Most of my life I spent in the corporate career and in high tech in Silicon Valley. I worked in large global corporations. I worked in small startups, and I founded my own consulting company. And I went through a series of burnout, and I actually started quite early. When out of college, I decided that I wanted to be a psychologist. So I went and got all the degrees I could, and then started counseling. And about a year in, I looked at the choice of my career and what I was doing every day, and I said, "Oh, I made a mistake. I really need to get out of this, cannot take it anymore." So I switched to a corporate career, and then I experienced a couple of more cycles of the same, which led me now at this point in my career to look back at it and say, yes, I can change external circumstances, but until I do my internal mindset shifts, my internal practices, really understanding of what brings me success and what brings me happiness, I really will continue going through that cycle. And I see a lot of people, especially in entrepreneurship, especially in high achieving careers, that are going through the same. So for me, it's a passion project. I do have other businesses that I manage, but this is a passion project to really help others to not go too deep into burnout and create the life that we want, successful and harmonious.
So let's frame what burnout actually is, because there are some high achievers who just think that this is what I do. It's normal to be tired all the time or to be stressed. How do I know that I'm actually approaching burnout?
It's an interesting question because if you look at the definition, physiologically, what burnout is, it's a chronic stress reaction. So if we are in stress and that stress cycle doesn't get released and it just keeps accumulating without that release, that's how we can get into burnout. And what's interesting about stress, that it's a very individual reaction. So the way you experience stress could be different from the way I experience stress. So it's important to understand what is your stress response. Some people, for example, can lose sleep, right? So some people start sleeping way too much. Some people lose appetites, and some people, they have cravings and go for that. So it's important to understand how you react to stress. And as you see more and more of that behavior in yourself, so that would be a good indication that you're going into that more of a chronic stress cycle. There are, though, some red threads that go across different people. And as you mentioned, being tired is one of those, that you feel exhaustion. So people who are in burnout, they feel exhausted. And that exhaustion is not the one that, oh, I go home and I take a nap and I'll be fresh again. That's exhaustion that doesn't really go away. So you have to watch out for signals like that. Overall, though, yes, it's important to put a label on that. But anything that goes into a direction that makes you maybe frustrated, overwhelmed, angry without no specific reason, emotional, and so on and so forth, those are the red flags. Like, you don't need to wait until you put a label of a burnout on that. If you're experiencing these symptoms or you see these signals, it's a good idea to look at how it is that I manage to build my life, what's my schedules like, what my relationships are with people around me, what's my relationship with the job that I do, and so on and so forth.
So good. So Let's go back for a moment, because if I recognize that I'm feeling tired, or maybe I'm irritated, or I'm angry about something, how do I know where to start with your approach? Do I call a coach? Do I call a counselor? Do I call a psychologist or a psychiatrist? What are some of your recommendations just for point A to get started with the process to live a more harmonious life?
Again, going back to that definition, that it's a chronic stress cycle, stress reaction, right? So I think a good idea, and that's how I always start, a good idea for anyone, whether you think that you're in burnout, or you think you're approaching burnout, or in general, if you feel fine, right? In general, in our age and time, we really need to master stress management techniques. So those are the things that we can master on our own. There's lots of resources out there. So what helped me to understand really how this work, again, from the body perspective, from the physiology perspective. So we have these two major reactions from our nervous system. One of those is fight or flight response, and another one of those is rest and digest. And fight or flight is that thing that's responsible for our survival. So very important. It's good that you have it. So people who are more on the anxious side, I tell them, well, it's good. It means that we're survivors. That's what took us there. But that's the system. That's a pre-verbal system. It really doesn't understand the words. You cannot tell yourself, oh, calm down, or it's okay, you'll get over it, and so on and so forth. So that system doesn't really understand those words. It understands different language, and that's the language of breath, right? So breath is that bridge between our mind and our body. So mastering a couple of breath work techniques would really help you to send that system to the survival system, saying that it's okay, the danger has passed. Now you can relax. You can really switch into a more manageable and much more optimal rest and digest mode. So one of those that I usually teach, the first is a block breathing. So you inhale on the count of 4, you hold your breath on the count of 4, you exhale on the count of 4, and you hold your breath again on the count of 4. And you do this 3 to 5 times, 7 times, whatever it takes. And that actually brings your stress response into a much more manageable state. Another language that system understands is the language of images, visualization. So just sitting down and visualizing a happy place, create that peaceful place for yourself in your head. Maybe it's a meadow with the sun. Maybe it's a riverbank with the water flowing. So whatever it is for you, the place that you can go to in your mind, and switch from that really unmanageable and panicking and anxious and overwhelmed stress response into a much more manageable, much more conscious, much more calm state of mind. So those are the techniques that I actually think mandatory, especially for people who took that leap of faith and went into entrepreneurship careers. Just all of a sudden, you have all these responsibilities right around you. There are all those things that are coming at you from so many different directions. It's important to be able to really talk to your system and take control. You're in a driving seat. You're already there. So that step that you took, it means that you're one of those people who really want to be in control, right? So who really want to be empowered. So that's one more of the empowerment techniques, really, to be able to talk to your own nervous system and regulate that.
So what it sounds like is that there are some things that you can do in terms of lifestyle changes without before you go and pay a professional that can really improve your quality of life and make your life more harmonious.
Yeah, so these are again stress management techniques. This is something similar to what other health maintenance things that you do every day. You brush your teeth, right? So you take a shower, you go for a walk, and so on and so forth. So this is the same. This is in your toolbox of things that you want to master, to regulate. It's good to be knowledgeable about those and look through some of those techniques, what works best for you. It's good to look at your reactions and again to learn for yourself what that stress, how you react to stress so you could manage that. So it's a lot of it is really about understanding of yourself, right? Before you go and manage a coach. It's not before, it could be at the same time. Obviously, everything can be done on your own, right? So you can learn to fly a plane on your own, but usually with a coach or a mentor or a program like that and the support system, it goes much faster, right? So it accelerates that process and really helps to make those learnings and those practices much faster and implement them much faster, and obviously get the results of them much faster.
Now, we know that Rome was not built in a day. If I'm working with a coach and I do have these techniques that I do on my own, what is like a reasonable time frame that I should expect for the process to start shifting for me and for me to start seeing results?
Those stress management techniques is what I call the first aid of a burnout. So these are the things that kind of like a band-aid, right? So if you cut your finger, you put a band-aid, you didn't really do anything for that cut, right? So you just stop the bleeding. So this is what it is. But in order to achieve sustainable changes so that you're much more centered, you're much more productive, you're not going through those ups and downs energetically, right? So those are the practices that take time, will take knowledge to implement, and take time to implement as well. And some of those is really about self-leadership. So I keep talking about leadership and self-leadership, but great leadership as an entrepreneur, you're already a leader. Whether this is you're a solo entrepreneur or your team behind you, or even you're a leader in your family, right? So it is leadership that what we're talking about. And that leadership really starts with self-leadership. And those self-leadership and those practices, they will trickle down to the rest of your organization, to the rest of your family and relationships and life. And those are the practices. I think it's important to understand that there's a very interesting mechanism for success, right? So when we are entrepreneurs, we really put those high goals for ourselves, what success would look like. And those goals are usually measurable, right? So I'm going to earn this amount of money. I'm going to buy this kind of house, right? So I'm going to have this and that. So these are the milestones that we put for ourselves, and that's how we define success. So if I reach there, if I reach that level of revenue, then I'm successful. Well, the interesting part from the psychological kind of mechanism perspective, that once you reach that, there's a snapshot in time where it's, yes, I reached this, let's celebrate. But then immediately we start putting further goals for ourselves. So that level of happiness just from achieving that particular milestone, it's very short. So, and that's how another way how we get into that burnout. So I checked all the check boxes, right? So I got into the right college, I got the right job, I founded a company, I got this milestone, so on and so forth, right? And at the end, you look at that. So I checked all the boxes and I'm still not happy. So that's really, yeah, so that's really the irony of this, is just chasing the milestones, for better or worse, do not bring that sense of harmony and happiness. So what's really important to understand is that the journey is very important as well. So how do you actually approach that journey? So in the same way, so happiness is not that moment in time when you achieve something. Happiness is a practice. And there is a very interesting relationship between kind of a happiness and success. So all the time, for me, and I know for a lot of people, there is this myth out there that success is what brings us happiness. But research is very clear on that nowadays, that not only success does not bring happiness, the relationship is actually reversed. So if you're happy, you're more successful. So that's very interesting to understand and to know as you're building your business, as you're creating that life for yourself, life of freedom, life of achievement, life of success, entrepreneurship. It's important to understand that all these mechanisms are in play there, that you want to learn. The invitation is really to learn and understand and practice that enjoyment of a journey. The journey is as important, and how you go through that journey is as important as the end result of that. Does that make sense, Sherry?
It does. And to look at it and frame it like that, it's not, okay, I'm going to be successful, then I'm going to be happy. No, when you're happy, you are more successful. And I guess I haven't thought about it like that. How did you start doing this work?
Yes, as I said, so for me, it was really out of my own pain, right? So I went through several of those burnout cycles. It started with my choice of profession. I really thought that I wanted to be a psychologist. So out of high school, I went and got all those degrees. I got my master's and my PhD. So I followed my passion. So I found my passion and I followed it. And then I started working one-on-one with people. And I followed my passion. I made my choice. I did that. I made a mistake. For sure, it's the job. It's my choice that was wrong. It's the job. And that only if I change a job, if I change my activity, then I will be happy. So I switched. I switched into corporate career. And 3 years or whatever, 2 to 3 years, then I was looking again around me. Yes, I got all these promotions. I found fantastic job. That switch was very quick and very smooth. Yay for me. And I was looking around and I was in the same situations. I really am not enjoying what I am. And so for sure, this is the industry. Like I chose the wrong industry, right? So I tried to change those external circumstances again. And really by those trial and errors, yeah, I finally realized that yes, external circumstances can contribute. There's no question about that. I'm not sitting here and saying, it doesn't matter what the culture is in your company. It doesn't matter what industry you're in. It doesn't matter what's going on, whether it's raining or the sunshine outside, right? It does contribute. But a lot of our state and how we approach this is really a lot of it is inside. And I want people to understand that this is actually a very empowering message. So it means that you control how you relate to everything that's going around you. So you are in control, you're in that driving seat and taking that responsibility for your own mindset, for your own practices, for creating that kind of stable core state of your behavior and how you approach the things and the responsibilities and the desires and so on and so forth. It's actually a lot of it is in our control. So there's a lot of power that's inside us, and we just need to have tools and practices to really realize that.
Victoria, if you had just one piece of advice for entrepreneurs on how to play big faster without being burnout or getting burnout, what would it be?
There's so many different ways how entrepreneurs can be faster. So what my message is really about this burnout-proof leadership strategies, right? So you can go all in and you can work for 24 hours, 7 days a week, and you achieve most likely you'll achieve your results much faster. But at what expense, right? So you really want to be in that more of a sustainable drive, right? I think burnout is important to understand what burnout is. I think what's even more important is to see how do you actually feel every day. So one of the very interesting phenomena out there, but now we all know about burnout, but now there's a new way that says languishing. So this is the state where you're not extremely unhappy, but you're not actually happy. So you're just going through the rounds, right? So you are in this routine and you're not even looking as like, oh, it can be better. So I'm here to tell you that it's okay to dream, right? So, and it's okay to raise the bar of how you feel. It's okay to raise the bar that the state of languishing when I'm neither here nor there. It's not normal. The normal state is the state of flourishing, when I feel vibrant, when my health is vibrant, when I have this vitality, when I have good relationships, when I have financial stability, when I have purpose in my job. All those things. You're not just one thing. So you're not just your company. You're not just your job. So you're this multidimensional human being. And that's where harmony comes from, really realizing that and giving yourself permission to exercise all of those different parts of yourself at different times.
And so this is so great. For those that may want to continue the conversation, what is the best way to contact you or just to find out more about who you are and what you do?
So the best way is through LinkedIn. I am on LinkedIn, Victoria Mensch. Look me up. I put a lot of content there, things that we were talking about here. We do have programs for companies and for teams as well. And that's through my company, Silicon Valley Executive Academy, the leadership, this burnout-proof leadership strategies for companies and teams as well. So LinkedIn is really the best way to learn all about that.
Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you, Sherry. I'm really happy that we had the conversation.
And until next time, play big faster.
Thanks for listening to this episode, and remember to play big faster.